To it.
The all-star photo. I see it's the second one. You have the glasses on?
Yeah.
Cards. That's how you got the women.
Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah. And welcome back to the Babble Boys podcast. I'm James, joined as always with my good buddy Jeff. Jeff, how we doing?
We're doing, man. We're doing. One day at a time.
One day at a time.
One diaper change at a time.
Yeah. Now, I can be honest with you. I have to clean up cat shit. You know, sometimes the dog shits on the carpet. We have a cat that has irritable bowel syndrome. And it does this thing. When it poops, it curls its tail under its butt and just poops on its own tail. And it's a cat that really likes to flick its tail. So when it's done, it goes and just shit.
It's a shit shower.
Dude, it'll come in this room, get up in that window behind me, and it'll hide because it has shit on itself. And it's like, you know, it knows it fucked up. But it'll sit there and I won't know that it shit itself, and I'll open the window later, and there's just streaks of poop all over the window. So it's disgusting. So I feel your pain with the diapers.
It's this staying at home business. I was like, said maybe I like history, I like politics. Maybe a teacher, so I can just have fucking long ass times away from work with these kids. I can't wait to get back to work. Like summer break, I'm just gonna be staring at the wall and trying not to, do something irrational.
Well, I mean, me personally, I'm stuck at home until June. They changed it. Yeah, we don't go back to the office till June.
You might not ever go back. My brother, he's an accountant, and they canceled his office space. He works from home permanently.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not.
Why rent the office space?
Well, yeah. I mean, it makes sense for in terms of if you're running a business and people can work from home, why have the overhead?
I just don't know if I would do well. Like I don't like my home life and my workplace to mix.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Especially for me at first, it was real tough to even wake up and pay attention to work.
Like, yeah, I mean, and I've been trying to learn, don't bring work home with you, right? Don't bring work home with you. Don't bring the stresses of that day home with you to your family life. And it's a hard thing to battle, especially if you're in the same exact environment that you're working in.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, my laptop's pinging at 7:30 at night.
Right.
I mean, people are working all hours.
Right. I like a set work time, 8 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Come home. I'm not turning on my computer. I'm not even going to check an email.
Yeah.
Because it's just I can get to it tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's. I mean, at least for me, that's
gone.
That's gone. So let's get into this here.
All right. What are we diving into today?
Section 230.
Okay.
So, as we know, Donald Trump's been going after this for a while.
Right.
And it's been attacked. It's been attacked for a while from the left and the right, and we're going to get into that here shortly. We got some articles from Reason, a favorite news source of mine. So,
yeah, Reason is probably one of my favorites as well.
Trump tweets repeal Section 230, something he couldn't do if Section 230 was repealed. So, you want censorship? This is how you get it. On Tuesday, President Donald Trump tweeted, repeal Section 230. The 3 exclamation points underscore his enthusiasm for undoing the federal statute that protects social media companies from liability for user-generated content. It's an ironic statement since, without the existence of Section 230, Trump very well might not be able to tweet it. If Congress were to remove social media platforms' liability protection, then companies like Twitter and Facebook would have no choice but to remove users' ability to post content at will. Instead, moderators would have to vet and approve content to make sure it wasn't potentially libelous.
Hmm.
This would exacerbate the very problem that many conservatives have with social media, namely that Twitter, and to a lesser extent Facebook, sometimes take aggressive action against provocative right-wing speech by labeling
Yeah.
the content as misleading or removing it outright. In some cases, the platform's treatment of right-wing users does seem overly harsh or selective in nature, though it is by no means the case that conservatives are the only ones to suffer from harsh and thoughtless moderation. Repealing Section 230, though, is not a solution unless the goal is to prevent Twitter and Facebook from functioning at all. So,
It's an interesting take.
yeah. But down here, this is important. Given this, it's no surprise that Joe Biden also wants to repeal Section 230. This makes perfect sense. Biden and his allies correctly realize that forcing social media to adopt more guardrails would result in wider moderation of conservative speech. Regulating the internet more aggressively is a straightforwardly beneficial plan for mainstream media-friendly Bidenism. That Trump is seemingly on board with this plan shows that the president either hasn't thought about this issue very hard or actually doesn't care about expanding the opportunities for conservative speech online, or perhaps both.
I mean, it's interesting because if you take it out, I mean, obviously you're going to have even more censorship. I traditionally, right-wing politics is anti-regulation. Traditionally, it's usually a left-wing thing to want to regulate everything. You name it, you regulate it, and whether it's environmental, workers' protection, it's regulated, right? We understand that over-regulation hampers the economic growth. But I mean, this is a simple thing. I mean, we've talked about it before. If you don't like it, don't use it.
Yeah.
I'm not on Facebook. You're not on Facebook.
No,
I'm not on Twitter. You're not on Twitter.
There's a problem though, and while in terms of what Trump is upset about, and other people about these platforms, I guess it is technically censorship, censoring things that they don't like. For example,
Hunter Biden.
Hunter Biden's a good point. Any kind of election irregularities that were posted to Facebook or Twitter are normally shut down. The only issue is that, as we move forward in life and everything is on the internet, you have to remember things like the dark web, crimes that are committed on the internet. And that is one of the things that these senators love to go after,
Absolutely.
And
got to keep people safe.
Got to keep people safe. And one of the ways to do that is to regulate these platforms. But like you said, when you sign up and make accounts on these services, you agree to the terms of service. If you don't like the terms of service, then just find another platform.
Parler, wherever, whatever.
Rumble, Odyssey, pick one.
Right.
That's how, once you affect their wallets, then maybe they'll loosen the terms of service. But you can't just throw more regulation at it. That's the complete opposite of what we need to do.
That's literally the whole point of a free market. For example, that baker in Colorado who didn't want to bake a cake for a gay couple's wedding, that is his right. It is your right to not support that business if you're offended by that. Money speaks louder than anything else. It's really that simple.
I mean, yeah, but that's the thing.
You can't force somebody to do something.
No, and I think that people feel entitled to these platforms or these businesses. They're entitled that, hey, if I want a cake, you have to make me a cake. I give you money. You can't say no to me.
That's slavery. But
that's not how it works. I have the right to not serve you.
I have the right to refuse service to anybody I want to, right? I'm a business owner.
Yeah, and I have the right, if you're on my platform and you say something I don't like, I have the right to remove you because you agreed to the terms of service.
It's the exact same thing. I mean, I got off of Facebook because I seen it going down a dark slope. When you have the richest and most powerful tech companies in general to ever exist on the planet, absolute power corrupts absolutely is the saying, and that can be a real dangerous platform, to be on, and I don't really want to be a part of that anymore because it got to the point there for a while where you couldn't even decide what was true and what was false, right? Because naturally, if the establishment of whatever is telling me that I can't do something, I'm going to want to do it anyways because I think that there's a reason why they don't want me to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know?
That's a good point. So the article goes on, and it details the recent attacks from the right and from the left, and I think that this is a good indication of where each party sits. So let's get into this here.
Yeah.
So the threat from the right is there's a little bit of meat in here. So the free speech merits of the law haven't stopped lawmakers on both sides of the aisle from attacking 230 using varying justifications. Some claim it allows companies to be too careless in what they allow. Others claim it encourages politically correct censorship by tech world titans. So from Ted Cruz last fall, if you're not going to be neutral and fair, if they're going to be biased, we should repeal Section 230. Cruz has helped popularize the idea that only through increased government control over online speech can speech really be free. How ironic is that?
Right.
No U.S. politician has been more aggressive in pushing this idea than Senator Josh Hawley, the 39-year-old Republican from Missouri who ousted Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill in the 2018 midterms. McCaskill is also prone to fits over Section 230, but mostly part of a tough-on-crime charade against online sex trafficking. Hawley has almost single-handedly turned tech industry arrogance generally, and Section 230 specifically, into a leading front in the culture war. Hawley has repeatedly suggested big social media platforms should lose Section 230 protection, claiming incorrectly that there's a legal distinction between online publishers and online platforms. According to Hawley, but not the plain text of Section 230 or many of the court decisions considering it, platforms lose Section 230 protection if they don't practice political neutrality. So,
yeah, but I mean, you got media companies who don't do. I mean, like everybody's naturally biased. I don't see. I think that's asking the impossible.
So he goes on. Twitter is exempt from liability as a publisher because it is allegedly a forum for a true diversity of political discourse, tweeted Hawley last November. The company tweeted last November in a call for Congress to investigate the company. That does not appear to be accurate. It's actually Hawley's interpretation of the law that is inaccurate. Section 230 protections are simply not conditioned on a company offering true diversity of political discourse, whatever that means. And again, I that's not in the text, and I don't true diversity of political discourse. I don't. That's when has anyone anywhere been forced to be diverse
neutral
with political discourse or neutral? I don't think that's even possible.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's good. That can't even be a thing because we have like political parties. Where you're going to have like Republican staffers who are diverse politically? Like that doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, so the Communications Decency Act of 1995 does say that the internet and other interactive computer services can be venues for a true diversity of political discourse, cultural development, and intellectual activity. So the Decency Act came before Section 230, but this comes in a preamble to the actual lawmaking part of Section 230. It merely sums up congressional dreams for the web at large. Nonetheless, Hawley's incorrect characterization of Section 230 has been echoed by numerous Republicans, including Trump and those on the fringe right. They say digital companies are biased against conservatives and Washington must take action. In June, Hawley did just that, introduced a bill that would require tech companies to act like he's already been insisting they have to. Under his proposal, dubbed the Ending Support for Internet Censorship Act, web services of a certain size would have to apply to the FTC every 2 years for Section 230 protection, which would only be granted to companies that could prove perfectly neutral moderation practices. How would you prove that?
You can't. It's like what we talked about before. You have banning excessive force by a police officer, like banning chokeholds or something. Like you have to have perfect wording for that. You can't say, oh, this is perfectly neutral. Like it's not possible,
No,
especially in the climate that we have today.
it's completely subjective.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, what's neutral to me and what's neutral to you are two completely different things.
Oh yeah, and like you said, in terms of police brutality, I mean, we know, uh, you know, we know what police brutality is, but if you had to describe it, how many people would describe it differently?
Right. I mean, your opinion of police brutality and mine are completely different. And the situations, we're dealing with human beings. That not every situation is going to be the same. If I have to put you in a chokehold because I feel threatened for my life because you're telling me you're going to take it, then I mean that can't be police brutality at that point in time. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's the same thing for this. Like that doesn't work and it can't work. So I mean, I think that you just need to let the free market take over for it. I mean, we could break up companies, sure. Like we broke up what was it? I don't know. We broke up standardized oil though in the early 1900s. I mean, are we going to break up Google? Is that the plan? Are we going to try to make them smaller? I mean, obviously, you don't want one company being too powerful, but I mean, all these things, like, they sound great when you say them, but you have to understand that there's ramifications. What are we going to do? Tell Elon Musk he can't colonize Mars because that's the monopoly at that point in time? When do you stop?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and we're way past this, but had the government not picked the winners and the losers,
Yeah,
we probably wouldn't even be in this situation.
like before, when we had before the Great Depression, we had laissez-faire economics, hands-off approach. That was the government's big thing, hands off the economy. Mm-hmm. They say it caused the depression. Okay, I disagree with that, but that's for another time. But how many recessions and or possibly depressions have we been in since the government decided to take control of the economy?
Well, yeah, and you could point that laser at
anything
yeah. That the government started. I mean, if you look at, for example, if you look at the welfare system and the net worth of Black Americans, it's just decreased ever since.
Yeah, because there's no call it what you want, but I got plenty of studies I can throw at you. You are not fucking breeding innovation.
No.
At that point in time, and it's a generational thing. And I'm not saying it's just Black Americans or anything like that, because there is a stereotype about that, and that's not true. Any generational welfare, it's statistically more likely that your kids are going to be on it too, because if you grew up in a single wide trailer, that's just good enough for you. That's fine. You don't mind living that life for the rest of your life because that's what you're used to. That's what you're accustomed to. Mm-hmm. It's simple. And anything like that, you're right. I mean, even when you're talking about energy, does the government have the right to tell me that I have to use solar or that I have to use gas? No, they don't. Nope. They should not pick the winners and the losers. The market should dictate that. Guess what? If I put solar panels on my house and it's going to save me money, I'm going to do it because it's going to save me money.
No, I mean, I understand completely. And, the counter argument is sometimes we need regulation. And you're right. Sometimes we do. There are perfect scenarios where we do. And I agree with that completely.
Yeah, don't dump acid in the river. Understood. Got it. Completely got it. But I mean, like, sometimes you just overregulate shit, like to try to save things, and it ends up backfiring and it ends up hurting, in the long run. I mean, yeah, like, should you be able to hurt your stakeholders, not your shareholders, like your stakeholders? Like if you have a factory and it's on a river, should you be able to dump pollution into the river that's going to hurt stakeholders, the people who drink the water? No, you should not be allowed to do that. You should be held reliable. You should be held liable for that. But like, putting a fucking catalytic converter in your car to help minimize the hard metals going into the atmosphere is fucking stupid.
Well, you have to remember that all of these regulations, like we touched on in the last video with the vaccines, it all comes down to someone lobbied, right?
Right.
That for this particular process. For example, if you die, now this might be a crude example, but if you die, I can't just bury you in my backyard.
No, it has to be. I know because when my dad died, I was like, can I just put his ashes? Like, can I plant them in the ground and put a tree on it? And they said no because at that point in time, it would have to be registered as a cemetery and be open to the public, right? Like,
Yeah.
like it's my dad. He's dead.
Yeah.
It's my property.
Yeah.
Mind your fucking business.
At some point, someone came along and had an idea for a business or whatever the process is, and they lobbied to make that the law.
Like it's like Biden's plan on uh doubling was it? I think it's doubling the what's the word for it here? The term. It's been a little while, so I've dug into it. The capital gains tax, right? I think that's what it is. And the inheritance. So like if I die, right? I've already paid taxes on my house my whole time I was alive, right? I paid taxes when I bought it. I paid taxes every year on it, right? But I should be able to leave that to my kids, right? Like, I mean, I think that's fair. It's my house. I paid for it. I should be able to leave that to my kids. When they sell it, they should not have to pay a 50% tax or 25% tax on the fucking profit that they make on it. That's bullshit. I already paid taxes.
Hey, I understand.
But somebody somewhere is like, this is a great idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just another way, they have to keep you down because if you're not down, you're not reliant. You have to be reliant. That's the only way that our government in its essence now can still operate is if you are reliant. If you're not reliant, you don't need them. Therefore, what purpose do they serve?
You're not going to listen to what they have to say it's just strange because like I think of a government as like its own separate entity, like like it's something, it's other, it's not us, it's other, but it's comprised of us, so like why is it like this? Like who makes these rules? Like I understand how the rules get put into place, but like who sits down and says, you know what, taxing the house that you left your child 25% is a great idea. Like that is against me, like that's against the people. That disproportionately hurts the poor people. So like who sits down and does this? It's like its own entity. Sometimes I feel like it's the enemy.
Well, why someone would come up with that tax?
Why? Because we need to fund gender programs in fucking Pakistan?
That would be my guess. They needed money to fund something, and they thought maybe they thought, well, you inherited the house, right?
Right.
So technically, you received the gift, I guess, per se.
Yeah. Inheritance.
So if we tax this money that you didn't earn, you didn't work for it, you were given it. So maybe they thought, well, maybe we feel less bad taxing something that you didn't necessarily earn or purchase or develop or pay off.
I feel like the end game is they just want everybody relying on them. Like everybody live off of them, so we can all listen like good little peasants, and it'll be like serfdom again.
I mean, yeah,
it's insane. Like, okay, Section 230, like we said, if you don't like the platform, don't use the platform. Well, it'll handle itself out.
Yes. So, speaking on what we were just describing, they sum it up perfectly here. So, Howies Bill, in other words, would put the federal government in charge of determining what constitutes political neutrality and correct modes of expression. Generally, it would then grant the government the power to punish companies that fail at this subjective idea. Howies Bill would replace the imperfect but market-driven content moderation practices at private companies with state-backed speech police. Now, as we just said, you cannot give the government this kind of power.
No. It always evolves into more. Always.
So, in talking about tech generally, Hawley makes no concession to the conscious rights of entrepreneurs, freedom of association, or personal responsibility. Values Republicans have historically harped on when it comes to private enterprise. Rather, Hawley insinuates that permissible technology and business practices should be contingent on their social benefit. In a May speech titled Big Tech Threat, Howley criticized not only social media content moderation, but the entire business model, which he condemned as hijacking users' neural circuitry to prevent rational decision making.
Now, I like that. And let me tell you why I like that. Because social media's sole purpose is to get you to spend more time on it and less time in the real world, right?
Yeah.
So in its entirety, like in its makeup, I mean, it's a business. They want money. They sell your data. What they're doing to the youth. I mean, I guess you can't really say they're doing it, but like their whole engineering process is to get the youth and everybody else to spend more time on Facebook, so they can get to know more about you, so they can sell your data at a higher price. It's a business plan. That's all it is. It's an excellent fucking business plan at that.
Oh yeah.
But that's really dangerous.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, I mean, yeah, and I feel like that's a rabbit hole that I don't know that we want to go down, because I mean, if there's a documentary on Netflix, I think
Social Dilemma.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that, watch that. That goes over the intense algorithms that Facebook has developed to continuously, well, Facebook, Google, all of these big tech firms, they've developed these algorithms to keep you continuously glued to your phone. So
they know more about you than you know about yourself.
Exactly. And to your point, hijacking users' neural circuitry, it makes sense. But again,
it's addictive, though, is what I'm saying. Like,
no, it is. But again, it's not the government's job to come in and do anything about this, in my opinion.
No, probably not. But I mean, at the same point in time, like they also regulate drugs. Like when you say like my body, my choice, that's a fucking lie, because I can't go inject heroin if I want to. So I mean, it is my body, but I don't get to choose what I get to put in it.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
in the descriptive terms, no, you don't have a choice to do whatever you want with your body. That's not true.
No, that's not true at all. And I mean, so like, but like, I mean, I guess just to play devil's advocate here, if social media and all this is the reason why suicide rates 3 times higher than it's ever been in history, and depression, and it's actually causing turmoil on society, at what point in time does anybody need to step in? Do they not? And do we just focus really hard on educating people about their usage on the internet? Because I mean, as human beings, we're not designed to have constant stimulation. Boredom is very good for you.
Okay, hold that thought.
Okay.
I wonder, his next sentence is good. He implied individuals have little free will when confronted with algorithmic wizardry.
Yes.
I mean, Facebook for making our attention spans dull and killing social and familial bonds.
It's true.
So he goes on, for Howley, overhauling Section 230 is part of a larger war on big tech, in which Silicon Valley has been cast in the role once occupied by Hollywood. Violent games in music, or liberal media elites, he calls them. It's a battle over control of culture, and Howley wants to use the power of the federal government to advance the conservative cause. Howley is the only one. Sorry. Howley is the only one. Paul Gosar, also parodying Howley's falsehoods. So in reading this, some of what he is saying makes sense.
It does.
Now, I don't know. I don't like the word his falsehoods. I mean,
it's too buzzy. Like they're being biased in their writing by claiming it as falsehoods. Like if you're talking about the algorithms and all, that's not a falsehood. Like I don't know.
So, from Fox News host Tucker Carlson, who has railed that screens are poison to Trump boosters like American Majority CEO Ned Ryan, Howley's anti-tech, anti-Section 230 sentiment is gaining traction across the right. Like the social conservatives who once demonized comic books and rap music, contemporary conservatives are siding with censors, but not for the protection of any particular values. They champion regulation as leverage against companies that have made high-profile decisions to suspend or demonetize right-leaning content creators. It's an impulse born of bitterness, nurtured by carefully stoked culture war outrage, and right in line with the trendy illiberalism of the MAGA era right. Their movement has plenty to say about what they wouldn't allow so long as Republicans are wearing the censor hat. But these conservatives are strangely silent about how the same control would be used by a Democratic administration.
Yeah.
So, to what you were saying, the human body is not, it's not made to have constant dopamine release. Because that's
it's
exactly
constant
what
stimulation.
Yeah.
Because boredom is good for you.
Yes, and so you have to remember that much dopamine is similar to any drug.
It is.
That's what most uppers do. You snort a line of cocaine, boom, it's just straight dopamine, basically. And that's the same. So if you think about it, it's like scrolling through social media.
Like you take a bomb-ass selfie, you post it on there, you get 150 likes, you're feeling like real good about yourself. Boom, it's a high.
Yep, it's the same. It's the same with watching porn. It's dopamine triggers. It just you feel good for 30 seconds. And no, the body is not, the brain is not designed to handle that. And you see what's happening in society. But at
mass depression.
Yeah, and at the same time, as technology advances, maybe that's just the future. What are we going to do?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, man. Obviously, it is the future because it's only going to get more advanced from here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're just in a strange limbo phase. I am confident that in 10 years, we'll probably be able to upload our brains into a computer, flat out.
Mm-hmm.
So, that sounds crazy to say, but I don't think it's crazy at all. With the way technology is advancing, I don't believe that is a far-fetched idea whatsoever. Elon Musk has talked about it himself. It's definitely a feasible idea. We're stuck in a strange limbo phase right now because we still value reality, but it's also a struggle between reality and virtual reality, when at some point in time, realistically, I think that virtual reality is going to win out. Because you can make whatever life you want. You can project yourself however you want. You can be whoever you want to be.
Yeah, that's probably the future. Yeah.
The points he makes are accurate, but the government doesn't ever come in there and really fix anything. So let's just go ahead and forget about that.
Yeah. So the article also goes into
the left's view.
And
I wonder what they got. I got a cousin. He's full blown open, Marxist, completely, Antifa kind of person. And he says that Facebook's always, censoring him. And I don't understand what they would be censoring him about but I'm curious to kind of find out.
I don't know, maybe he's calling for violence on people.
Well, yeah, but as we just seen with these riots, that's really not a big deal,
Yeah. So the threat from the left. What Democrats would do with the power Republicans are seeking matters too, because Democrats have their own plans for Section 230 and just as many excuses for why it needs to be gutted. Russian influence, hate speech, sex trafficking, online pharmacies, gun violence, deepfake videos, and so on. After Facebook declined to take down deceptively edited video of Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker called Section 230 a gift to tech companies that could be a question mark in jeopardy. Treating it with what video are they talking about? Is it her in the nail salon?
Yeah, it's not. How is that a doctored video?
I'm not sure what the video. It doesn't matter.
I think it's the hair salon one.
Senator and presidential candidate Kamala Harris has been pushing for the demise of Section 230 since she was California's Attorney General. In 2013, she signed on to a group letter asking Congress to revise or repeal the law so they could go after Backpage for its adult ad section.
Mm-hmm.
Howley, Harris, and bipartisan crusaders against sex work ads offered their own misinformation about Section 230, implying again and again that it allows websites to offer blatantly illegal goods and services, including sex trafficking, with impunity. Section 230 permits internet and tech companies like Backpage.com to profit from the sale of children online. and gives them immunity in doing so, wrote law professor Mary Leary. Okay. Backpage and its executives purposefully and unlawfully designed Backpage to be the world's top online brothel, Kamala Harris claimed in 2016. California's current attorney general said in 2017 that the law lets criminals prey on vulnerable children and profit from sex trafficking without fully facing the consequences of their crimes.
Now, that's where the government could actually regulate something beneficially. Like, if two consenting adults want to fuck for money, that's their right, I feel like. And you could easily make it like a license program. Like, hey, you have to have a license to be a prostitute. I feel like that would solve it. I really do. But that's kind of away from the point.
I agree completely. I mean, if
I want to give you a hand job for $50, I should be able to do that.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
It's simple. As long as I'm 18 and I have, a license for it. I don't know.
So, but attorneys like Harris and Becerra should know that nothing in Section 230 protects web platforms from prosecution for federal crimes. When passing Section 230, Congress explicitly exempted federal criminal law from its purview, along with all intellectual property statutes and certain communication privacy laws. If Backpage executives were really guilty of child sex trafficking, the DOJ could have brought trafficking charges at any time. Note they did not. Nor does Section 230 protect web operators who create illegal content or participate directly in illegal activities. Those operators can be prosecuted by the feds, sued in civil court, and are subjected to state and criminal laws. So, Section 230 does not protect you from prosecution, unlike they are saying it does. It does not.
So basically, what it is, if I'm thinking about this right, is that they just want control of it so that they can basically wage their political warfare by censoring each other, kind of.
I mean, at least in this sense, if they had evidence that Backpage was trafficking children, which I will be honest, I don't know anything about. I remember when they took it down, but I don't remember any charges ever being brought in.
It's just like Pornhub just recently, took down 2/3 of their videos.
Yeah.
Because of the claim of child trafficking, which obviously is a real problem in the world. But they took it down so they didn't face any kind of punishments. But aren't they kind of similar too, though? Because that's user posted content. That's not they're not posting that content.
Well, no.
So
if I didn't do that much research into that, but I think they were being sued by Visa, and MasterCard, if I remember.
Yeah, I think
correctly.
So. Something like that.
Because
I didn't really follow it. I didn't really care enough. But
basically, at Pornhub, you can purchase a premium and view videos from people that make you pay, I guess.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, if it's possible that there were underage people there, who knows?
Anything is possible.
20 million videos on there.
Yeah, they can't vet every single one of them. Absolutely not. But the whole that's what I'm saying. The whole thing, it's such a strange thing to be fighting over, and I think they're only fighting over it because that political party wants control of it. But they don't really see the dangers of it, because if the Democrats get in control, then they have control of it, and vice versa. You can censor each other.
Okay. Well, so they also went after Craigslist. So in 2018, Congress did honor that request, at least in part, by passing a bipartisan and widely lauded bill known by the shorthand FOSTA, that carved out a special exception to Section 230 where violations of sex trafficking laws are concerned.
Okay.
The Allow States and Victims to Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act also made it a federal crime to operate an interactive computer service with the intent to promote or facilitate the prostitution of another person.
Okay, so that's why Pornhub that's why they would have deleted their videos. Probably would have fallen under that, yeah.
After the law passed, Craigslist shuttered its personal section almost immediately, explaining that the new law opened websites to criminal and civil liability when third parties, the users, misuse online personals unlawfully.
Yeah.
The risk wasn't worth it. Since then, there's been ample evidence of a false to chilling effect on non-criminal speech, but the law has failed to curb forced and underage prostitution, and police, social service agents, and sex workers say that FALSTA has actually made things worse.
Really?
Proponents portrayed FALSTA as a one-time edit of Section 230 that was necessary due to the special nature of underage prostitution and the existence of companies that allow online ads for legal sex work. But this year, state attorneys general asked Congress to amend Section 230 for the alleged sake of stopping opioid sales, ID theft, deepfake election meddling, and foreign intrusion.
Mm.
The range of reasons anti-230 crusaders now give belies the idea that this was ever really about stopping sex trafficking, and they will keep taking bites out of the apple until there's nothing
Exactly what it is. It's about control. Exactly what it is.
As it says right here, they just asked this year to amend Section 230 like they did for the sex trafficking for the sake of stopping opioid sales, ID theft, deepfakes, election meddling, and foreign intrusion.
Now, is that... See, because you have like the dark web, right? So like you can go on there, you can go onto a marketplace, you can buy drugs, right? How does I'm assuming the dark web follows these same kind of guidelines. It's just harder for them to track.
What guidelines?
Like, if they were to add that amendment, like opioid sales and stuff, because that's what the dark web, that's a lot of this, what that marketplace sells, on the dark web is drugs, and you can get fake licenses or people's credit cards, things like that. So, I feel like, what's that?
They follow no rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. But it's just like I feel like they're just going to keep trying to amend Section 230 to keep adding in provisions that they feel are necessary, based, being authoritarian, like.
Well, yeah, and a perfect analogy is the amount of laws that we have in general in this country. They just keep adding more laws. I saw some study, and it was the average a person commits 10 to 15 crimes a day, and they don't even know it. There's so many laws out there. And this
Absolutely.
is the same thing. They're just going to keep adding all these provisions. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this.
It's like every time there's like a mass shooting or something, like we need to add more gun laws. We already have like 47,000 gun laws on the books. There's no way nobody knows what they all are. And I'm sure we have one on the book that would have stopped it, but right? It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing.
So to finish, what both the right and left attacks on the provision share is a willingness to use whatever excuses resonate. Saving children, stopping biases, preventing terrorism, misogyny, and religious intolerance to ensure more centralized control of online speech. They may couch these in partisan terms that play well with their respective bases, but their aim is essentially the same, and it's one in which only Washington, state prosecutors, and fire-chasing lawyers win. There's a lot of nonsense out there about what Section 230 is all about, Wyden said in a May interview with Recode. In reality, it's just about the most libertarian free speech law on the books. Is it any wonder why politicians hate it? And so...
I'm watching my kids fight each other right now. May the strongest win. No. So basically, here's my question to you then. If they repeal 230, would that get rid of all of this whole fight about, the extra censorship?
No, it would do the opposite.
Would it? Okay.
It would force censorship.
Okay.
You wouldn't be able to say anything you wanted to say.
Because, how, you got in the article, it was talking about how the amendments there, they keep adding amendments. But if they repeal the whole thing, all the amendments would be removed, correct?
Well, yeah, it would all be gone. It would open up. It would open up every single online platform to being liable for what their users say. Got it.
That clears it up for everybody. That's so, and it has bipartisan support for the most part. So yeah, it's definitely something that we should probably stop pushing forward then too, I'd assume.
Yep. Well, all right, my friend. I'll let you get back to the daddy daycare.
Yeah, one just woke up from his nap. It's got to do it.
Well, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.